In just 72 hours, Iran lost something it can never rebuild. The United States dropped a weapon on the Strait of Hormuz coastline that military analysts are calling the most significant tactical breakthrough in bunker warfare since the Gulf War. This was not a warning shot. This was the systematic dismantling of the most sophisticated underground missile network a regional power has ever constructed. Iran spent 2 decades building coastal fortifications they believed were untouchable. Tunnels bored 40 meters into solid rock, anti-ship missile batteries buried so deep that conventional weapons could not even scratch them. Then, on March 17th, American B-1 Lancer bombers unleashed the GBU-72 Advanced 5,000-pound Penetrator, and in one night, that entire strategy collapsed. If you want to understand how one weapon just permanently shifted the balance of power in the Middle East, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video to help us reach more people who need to see this analysis, and share it with anyone who still thinks Iran holds all the cards in the Strait of Hormuz. They do not anymore. The Strait of Hormuz is not simply a body of water. It is the jugular vein of the global energy economy. 27% of the world's entire seaborne energy supply passes through that corridor every single year. At its narrowest point, only 21 miles wide. Control it, and you control the global energy market. Iran knew this. For more than a decade, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps executed a construction program designed to make that control permanent. Tunnels bored 30 to 40 meters into solid coastal rock, anti-ship missile batteries concealed behind natural terrain, underground communication networks running entirely beneath the surface, invisible to satellites, invisible to radar, invisible to everything. At the center sat a layered long-range missile arsenal. The Noor and Qatar anti-ship cruise missiles with ranges stretching from 12 miles to 186 miles. The Abu Mahdi cruise missile with a range exceeding 600 miles. The Hormuz II and Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles capable of tracking and striking moving ships at ranges exceeding 180 miles. This was not a collection of weapons. It was a system designed to make the entire Strait of Hormuz a no-go zone. Military strategists call it anti-access area denial. You do not need to defeat an enemy navy if you can make the waters so dangerous that no navy dares enter. For 2 decades, that strategy worked. The Strait of Hormuz was Tehran's ultimate insurance policy. Then came February 28, 2026. Operation Epic Fury began, and Iran played that card. Iran's blockade was devastating. Speedboats armed with missiles targeting merchant vessels, naval mines scattered across shipping lanes, drone swarms harassing ships attempting passage, and behind it all, the network of land-based missiles buried deep in coastal rock. Before the conflict, the Strait saw more than 100 vessels per day. After Iran declared it closed on March 2nd, that number collapsed to 3 or 4 ships per day. Oil prices spiked above $100 per barrel, up more than 40%. At least 20 ships were attacked. Insurance premiums exploded to levels where no major insurer would cover passage at any price. Iran believed the economic pain would force Washington to back down. For a while, it appeared to be working. But Iran miscalculated. The fast boats are dangerous but manageable. The United States deployed A-10 Warthog attack aircraft to hunt them in real time. But the anti-ship cruise missiles were a different problem. The facilities housing them are buried so deep that conventional bombs cannot reach them. The physics do not work. Iran spent decades building underground networks precisely because it knew air superiority would belong to adversaries in any conflict. If you cannot protect assets above ground, you go below. Simple, effective, and until recently, successful. The only solution is not to intercept missiles after launch. It is to destroy the launchers before they fire. Eliminate the source. Remove the threat permanently. That is what the United States did on March 17th. That is where the GBU-72 enters the story. The GBU-72 Advanced 5,000-pound Penetrator, 5,000 pounds, more than 2 metric tons of precision-guided destruction. But it was not designed to destroy what it lands on. It was designed to destroy what lies beneath. The warhead does not detonate on impact. It drives through earth, rock, and reinforced concrete using kinetic energy, traveling deep underground before detonation. It combines a BLU-138B penetrating warhead with GPS positioning and inertial navigation. That guidance allows release from standoff distances, meaning pilots stay outside Iran's air defense range while placing weapons precisely on target. The explosive fill is significant. The GBU-72 uses the same AFX-757 and PBXN-109 compounds found in America's 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator. Engineers replicated that proven formula, suggesting superior performance against hardened structures. It replaced the GBU-28 from 1991, which could punch through 15 feet of reinforced concrete and 150 feet of earth. Impressive then, but underground facilities have grown deeper and more sophisticated. The GBU-72 is the answer. Here is what makes this weapon devious. You do not need to destroy an underground bunker to render it useless. It needs tunnels connecting to the surface, access points for equipment, personnel, and launchers. Block those entrances, collapse those tunnels, seal those access points, and whatever is inside becomes irrelevant. The bunker becomes a tomb instead of a fortress. That is precisely what the United States executed along the coast. It destroyed the infrastructure that makes facilities functional. And the GBU-72 is exceptionally suited to that task. Was March 17th the GBU-72's combat debut? Retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer stated this represented the first operational deployment. The aviationist reached the same conclusion. But the war zone referenced a May 2024 report where U.S. officials said the GBU-72 had been deployed against Houthi targets in Yemen. The Houthis are a proxy force backed and directed by Tehran. If accurate, Iran had indirect exposure to this weapon 2 years before Iranian soil was struck. And they could not stop it then. They cannot stop it now. If you are finding this valuable, subscribe if you have not already. Now back to the analysis. How did the United States deliver these weapons? Current analysis points to the B-1 Lancer bomber at RAF Fairford as the primary platform. Each B-1 carries up to 12 GBU-72s. An F-15E carries just one. Estimates suggest close to 50 bombs were deployed. You need B-1s for that firepower. 4 B-1 Lancers carrying 12 each accounts for 48 bombs. Devastating payload. Minimal aircraft exposed. According to the Alma Research and Education Center, Operation Epic Fury and Israel's Operation Roaring Lion eliminated 85% of Iran's air defense network. What remains are isolated pockets posing reduced threat. F-15E Strike Eagles likely supported delivering initial strikes or follow-ups. The combination maximized speed and lethality. U.S. Central Command confirmed the strikes on March 17th. Forces deployed multiple 5,000-pound penetrators against hardened missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz. The anti-ship missiles no longer posed risk to shipping. CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper stated, American forces remain focused on eliminating every threat to free navigation. Pilots are hunting targets in real time. The operation will not stop until threats are gone. President Trump issued an ultimatum. Iran had 48 hours to reopen the strait or face strikes against power infrastructure. Iran's response revealed a regime caught between defiance and awareness of deterioration. Iran threatened retaliatory attacks against regional energy infrastructure, naming Saudi Arabia and the UAE. But simultaneously, Iran announced it would allow ships except enemy-linked vessels to pass, a significant departure from total interdiction. Whether genuine de-escalation or tactical retreat remains unanswered. The definition of enemy-linked is ambiguous, leaving Iran room for selective targeting while claiming compliance. The diplomatic picture has fractures. Before the strikes, Trump requested a multinational NATO coalition to keep the strait open. Germany declared it was not their war. Spain closed doors. France announced its vessels would remain defensive. Not one ship redirected to Hormuz. Trump called it a foolish mistake. Beijing sheltered behind neutrality despite economic stakes. Russia watched rising oil prices with satisfaction. Russia and China vetoed a UN resolution calling for multilateral force on April 7th. This conflict now resembles great power confrontation through proxies. Only India moved differently, deploying warships to escort tankers. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte indicated members are working to contribute. 7 U.S. allies signaled willingness to join patrol missions, though commitments have not materialized. Ukrainian drone technology is reportedly being made available to support American and Gulf forces, a collaboration reflecting how rapidly the strategic landscape shifts. Israel is watching the GBU-72's performance closely, seeking to acquire this weapon for operations against Iran's nuclear facilities. The B-1 Lancers remain on standby at RAF Fairford. Intelligence assets are cataloging additional targets that survived initial strikes. This is not a force stood down. This is a force ready to go again. Iran spent years building an underground network. It invested enormous resources burying launchers deep enough that no adversary could reach them. It watched oil prices spike and believed it had leverage to force Washington to back down. Every calculation has been challenged by a weapon Iran's engineers did not account for. It penetrates. It reaches the target. It detonates. Tunnels collapse. Access points seal. Launchers become irrelevant. That is what happened along the Strait of Hormuz, and the United States is prepared to do it again. Whether Iran de-escalates or doubles down will determine the next chapter. But Tehran now knows its underground network is not the sanctuary it believed. The weapon built to defeat it exists, has been used, and more are ready. The era of Iran believing it can close the strait without consequence is over. The strait is not fully open yet, but the balance of power has permanently altered, and the operation is not finished. The B-1s are still on the runway. Subscribe so you never miss critical analysis of what happens next and how the GBU-72 shifted the strategic balance. Share this with anyone who needs to understand the real implications. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Iran will genuinely reopen the strait, or is this tactical? We will see you in the next briefing.